Hello ATV.com, this is Lucas and I am at Stony Lonesome OHV Park in Alabama and I'm here to test the 2019 Yamaha YXZ1000R Sport Shift Edition. Let's go for a ride. The YXZ1000R SS, the Sport Shift model, has only been around for a couple of years now, but for 2019, Yamaha made some fairly significant changes. Chief among them is a big change in the gear ratio. Yamaha lowered the first gear ratio by 16.5% and gears 2 through 5 by about 7%. What this means is the vehicle should now be a little bit easier for the guys who like to go rock crawling and technical trail riding and slogging through the mud. Personally, that's never really been my thing. I've always been a kind of guy who just likes to rip around the trails and have a good time. And the original YXZ1000R SS was perfect for that as it was. Fortunately, none of the changes they've made this year have really affected that negatively whatsoever. This thing is still a blast to drive in the trails. Also new for 2019 is tires. The outgoing model had Maxxis Bighorn 2.0 27-inch tires with a 6-ply rating. This year, Yamaha went back to the original Maxxis Bighorn, except bumped up to a 29-inch tire with an 8-ply rating. So these tires should be a fair bit more durable and have a lot more traction when you're trying to get through technical terrain. Another big change for 2019 is the radiator. No longer in the front of the unit, Yamaha moved it out back, and it's 32% larger than the old one was. Yamaha says this is the largest radiator they've ever made. It has 300% more airflow to cool the machine a little bit more. It also makes the center console area quite a bit cooler. You can now keep your drinks on there without worrying about them getting real hot and not really something you want to drink anymore. There's also a little bit less heat on the driver's back, thanks to the cooling air coming out from the back of the radiator. If you had any worry about the rear cargo space going downhill because the radiator has been moved back there, fear not. Yamaha says this has the same amount of space as the old model. It's still got the 4 welded steel tie-down points, so you can lock in just about anything you need to. You can bring out a cooler on there, ratchet it down tight without worrying about snapping anything because it's all welded steel, and it should stay tight and secure while you're ripping around the trails. Suspension is also new for 2019, and there are 3 different shock options. The base model comes with a single rate spring. There's a regular Fox dual rate spring, and then if you get the SE models, you can bump up a level even more for more adjustability and performance. You may have also noticed that the roof looks a little bit different for this year. The old YXZ had a more slanted down angled roof. This year is much flatter design, which is good for a couple of reasons. One, it makes getting into and out of the vehicle a little bit easier because you have a little more headroom here, so you're probably not going to bonk the top of your helmet on the frame when you're getting in. And 2, you have a little bit more upward visibility. So if you're at the bottom of a hill and you're trying to look up, you don't really have to crane your neck up anymore to do so. You just kind of look up and you've got a little bit more, a couple more degrees of visibility when you're going up a hill. And helps with, again, helps when you're doing some technical climbing. You're trying to find a good line for when you're crawling up the rocks. So now that we've discussed all the new changes for 2019, you probably want to know how this thing drives. And really for me, it doesn't feel a great deal different for trail riding than it did before. I was a little bit worried that the larger, heavier tires were going to slow down the acceleration of the YXZ a little bit, but I wasn't really able to distinguish any major difference. Now, it's been a little while since I was in the old one, but this thing still rips. It's still got the great launch system you had before, so you bring in the paddles, you crank down the gas to get to about, I don't know, 9,000, 10,000 RPM, drop into the first gear and take off anytime you want. It's super fun to do that anytime you're in the trail, and it really matches what you can do with the full manual version. As you can see, I did run into a little bit of mud today, and the Maxxis Bighorn 29-inch tires held their own just fine. It's a nice big contact patch on that tire, so you can find traction pretty much everywhere you'd expect for a kind of a intermediate grade tire like that. It's really good for a lot of different conditions. If you're going to use this vehicle as a pure mud machine, obviously you're going to want to go in a different direction. If you're going to use this as a pure rock crawler, you're probably going to want to get a slightly different tire. But if you're kind of like me and just like to rip around the trails and have a little fun and do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, it's a great all-purpose tire, and I really think Yamaha hit a home run with this one. This model obviously comes standard with electronic power steering, and that is one thing I almost always wish to have in a UTV, a sport machine or a utility machine. So when we were out there in some pretty rocky terrain today, when you hit a hard rock, the wheel's not going to get torn out of your hands. The power steering absorbs a lot of that for you and makes life much easier when you're going for a ride. And really, you could ride for longer, harder, and have a little bit more fun, at least in my opinion. It's a worthy upgrade. Fortunately, it comes standard on this machine, so it's not something you have to worry about. The bottom line is the 2019 Yamaha YXZ1000R SS is still a YXZ, despite all the new changes. It is still super fast and fun in the trails, very easy to use. I love the paddle shift options. It makes shifting gears a snap, and it really adds a little element that you wouldn't get on a lot of other side-by-sides. And if you haven't tried one for yourself, head to your local dealer and see if you can take one for a spin.